Good morning, everybody. It's Jillian. So, happy Friday. And it was interesting. I was just on Facebook. I had a really good night's sleep. Was up hella early, like around 3. And I saw on Facebook this morning just something that reminded me of my conspiracy days, which, yeah, there is definitely elements, like major elements of truth in the conspiracy world, okay? Um, But there's a way to beat all the intentions. There's a way to thwart somebody else's intention. And that has to do with actually biochemistry. Because we're not in the days of like the gladiator days. We're not going to be doing like a literal Hunger Games. It's going to be a virtual Hunger Games. It's going to be a scaling down a population in a way that is going to seem like it's a natural occurring thing. Well, yeah, I guess everything is naturally occurring, but there's always catalysts to every type of, and there's always a catalyst to every type of reaction, okay? And every reaction really is a reaction. And I wrote in my book about action and reaction, and that really everything's a reaction, because unless you know the origination, then you're going to think it's just an organic action. No, everything is a reaction to something. And if you don't know what the actual initial action is, then you'll think it's coincidence, you'll think it's whatever. Or you'll think it. So if you know what the catalyst to a reaction is, then you'll say, okay, it's an intention. True. But the first actual action, we don't know any first actual action, because that's what started life and that's what started everything to happen, the first chemical reaction. Okay? So if you don't really know the catalyst, then you're going to think everything is like organic. No, nothing is organic in this world. And so, yes, the Georgia Guidestones, like I've been talking about the Georgia Guidestones, and yeah, it's beautiful words, though when you look deeper, from 7 billion to 500 million, holy crap. But even that doesn't super resonate to some people, because that's like, okay, that may happen in like, 1,000 years from now. But no, the actual target is like 2050. Okay. And so then I posted a meme from the Committee of 300. There's definitely a 1% that does control everything. And you really, I mean, you may know who they are. They do have addresses, but they're behind very large walls. They're behind a lot of people, armies, and whatever. And so now you just have to figure out, okay, there's definitely a game going on, and you gotta learn how to play the game. Okay, you gotta learn how to play the game, because it's a game out there. So useless eaters are people who don't really just are not really in tune with really what's going on in the world. All they're doing is subsisting. They're taking more than they're contributing, causing a lot of shit in the world, intolerance, not easy to deal with, always rebelling, and not very adaptable to new situations. And so, yeah, I mean, when you're getting rid of useless eaters, which is what's in that meme, that's a lot of people that just are here, but are not really contributing to the overall humanity. Well, how do you contribute to the overall humanity? Well, that's what it comes down to. It's not trying to be famous, okay? Believe me. It's not, you're not trying to get a degree. You're not trying to become some intellectual. It's the ability to stay balanced. It's the ability to stay alive where you're not succumbing to the rapid evolution. You know what rapid disease is? It's rapid evolution. Disease is where the body cannot handle the evolution in the state that it's in at this point. Now, if you prime your body correctly, you could be ready for rapid evolution, slow evolution. I mean, evolution can be can be actually adjusted. See, that's the thing about my book that I'm writing about, is that evolution has been adjusted based upon intention. And that's what people have a hard time understanding, that evolution is innovation. But no matter what, whether it's a new virus in the environment, whether it's a new vaccine, or someone shedding, or, just new entities in the environment, you're going to have to evolve. And so someone's always going to adjust the environment relative to their intention, or they don't even know because they're a carrier of something, a carrier of evolution that a lot of people aren't prepared for. And then everyone's going to have to adjust to that level of evolution, because that's the new evolution that everyone must adjust to. And so, yes, all through history and time, evolution on man has been intentional. Biomanipulation. Okay, and I know people have sent me videos about hybrid races and this. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Yes, Darwin and evolution, like Darwin does exist. Yes, because it is survival of the fittest. I'm not throwing Darwin out the window at all. Actually, Darwin, everything in science and in mainstream media has actual credibility. Yes, you can take something from outer space, like a panspermia, and it could drop. Okay, and it could evolve. It could be fertilized by the inhabitants of the earth and then have a new type of evolution, of which not everyone that's around that's been exposed to it will take to it. That panspermia is like freaking viruses. Okay, I mean, they don't say it. I mean, this guy Lloyd Pye, who I guess he passed away, but he was introducing the thought of intervention, which is hybrid alien races being interwoven with the human population. And yeah, and that's what I'm kind of claiming too, in a way. But it's like you can mate. If you come from an alien race, you can mate potentially, or you could take DNA and manipulate the DNA to then have a specific outcome. Now, are you going to have like 3 legs? I mean, it has to actually make sense. You can't just have a person with 3 legs walking down the street. That's just not very utilitarian. What's the point? Now, maybe in another planet, okay. But I think people here, when you have the majority of the population with 2 legs, of someone with the 3rd leg walking down the street as if nothing was going on would be very dangerous for that person. Okay, so they wouldn't allow that to happen because they wouldn't last very long. That's Darwin. Darwin is always going to come into play when it has to do with the majority and the minority of people. And so anyways, so yes, humans have been biomanipulated for centuries, because look what we're doing today. Biotechnology biomanipulates humanity. What do you think happened way in the beginning of man? Biotechnology manipulates humanity. Biomanipulation. Bioengineered. And then the whole thing with religion. All religions, every single religion, belief system, whatever, came from those that knew about the biomanipulation and those that really didn't have a clue. And so they make up stories about, what they saw, what they felt with. And that's all good. That's fine. That's how humans rationalize what they don't know, is they find ways to explain it through allegory, through stories. And then some people, yes, they tend to worship. Now, is that right or wrong? No, worship is worship. People want to honor those before them. They want to honor an idea. They want to honor a person, which, okay, I don't want to be worshipped. But then, then what happens, the dangers of worshiping is when you give your power away to somebody else. And then you allow them to manipulate you. So there is a fine line between honoring those in antiquity and honoring higher powers and then giving your power away to that higher power. Okay, so I have no problem with any religion out there. I have no problem with any belief system. I really don't care, as long as you're promoting, a balanced life. And you get that you can't help that some people are going to die, because that's the thing. That's the issue. We have a lot of people out there. They want to promote life everywhere, which, yeah, I mean, I do too. But there's must be an acceptance that there's going to be a part of the population that will just not get it, that will pass away. And being attached that they don't speaks to the fact that you're trying to control someone else's existence. Okay? Some people don't want to exist past a certain amount of time. I understand that. I get it. People say they do. And as people say, we're supposed to pass away. If you live beyond what you're supposed to, then you're some kind of demon. There are some really entrenched belief systems that if you live past a certain point of time that is not accepted, that you're like a vampire or something. And so you don't want to totally tell a person that their beliefs are wrong, bad, or whatever. And so it's the tolerance that allows a person not to be a useless eater. Why? Because you will take care of you and yours. You will be that 500 million that the Committee of 300 or the Georgia Guidestones is talking about. We already know there are impenetrable people out there. Yes, there are religions and there are cultures out there that are way more advanced than most people. And now that you have my information, you'll be able to understand why they're advanced and not be caught in the chaff. Okay? And so I'm fine with knowing what the plans are. I'm accepting these are the plans because, look, you're doing jelly juice. It's strategic. Okay? There's going to be excess parasites leaving the body that don't want to leave the body. There's going to be excess protein. There's going to be excess protozoa, fungus, bacteria that probably had a really good time when you were 200, 300 pounds. And now you slim down to now a nice, comfortable 120, 150. And they're now being recycled back into the universe, just like the excess people on this planet. Now, yes, you're going to see more wars, more epidemics, controlled declines. Like I keep telling you, controlled declines, controlled epidemics. But you still have a choice in every single thing that goes on. Okay? And so I'm not an activist really anymore. I understand the point of the vaccines. They're not poisonous. It's just rapid evolution. But, instead of slowing down the evolution like we had been maybe 100 years ago, maybe evolution speeds up because evolution does determine who is the strongest, who's the fittest, who's gonna win out. It's a type of biochemical battle. Sorry. That was way deep down. But it's a biochemical battle that you're going to have to win. It's not going to be hand-to-hand combat in the Colosseums like back in the Roman days. Now the powers that be that are trying to keep the balance are finding ways to wage war in the biochemistry. But you have the up. You have the J juice. You understand pain. You have the food supply. As much as I can live off of top ramen and J juice if I had to. I mean, they said in that little meme or that little screenshot that, people are going to be given just enough to subsist. It's not going to be excess. No. That's why these restaurants are gone. That's why we only like the pizza shops, maybe a few good restaurants, but they're not going to last very long. And if they do, the way the epidemics go, a lot of the workforce is going to be depleted. And so once you figure out how to subsist on a very shoestring budget, you'll be able to handle the fluctuations. It's when you're so dependent on the excess out there. And when that excess is diminishing, then you're going to feel like you're at a loss. Well, if you already figured out how much you truly need in body, mind, and spirit, then you'll be able to take to the changes in the environment. And that goes for everything in finance. That goes for everything intellectually. That goes for, you better learn everything now, and then you figure out how to get information without having to go and store it somewhere. Like, if you don't want to trust that a book, is going to be around, then you better get the information like off my, my Facebook or whatever, and memorize it and know it. So that way you don't have to depend upon, and you don't have to have too many resources at your disposal to depend upon, because lest they might disappear for whatever reason. Okay? I mean, the powers that be are not going to allow all of humanity to starve, but there's going to be huge segments of the population that will. Luckily, some of you are in first world status. When you're in first world status, you have a leg up, which means that you'll be able to subsist on very, very little. But you have to condition your body to be able to subsist on very, very little. Those that are in third world countries can't afford to subsist on very, very little because they're already subsisting on very, very little. So when that gets taken away, yes, starvation is going to happen in third world countries. It's inevitable. Be fucking happy you're in a first world country. Okay? So the J juice is going to help condition you to not want more than what you really need. Because yes, we're in a reset. I've been saying this. It's one thing to read the Georgia Guidestones where there's pretty words and okay, you can kind of put meaning on the whole 500 million, 7 billion thing. But when you see it in the written language, it's a little shocking. Okay, so I read that, I'm like, oh God, this is really the Georgia Guidestones in a written form in its most rawest form. Okay, rapid disease, epidemics, wars, skirmishes here and there, taken down from 7 billion to 500 million. I mean, when it's written in a sentence with intention, that really strikes a chord. You're like, holy shit. That's the rawest form of the Georgia Guidestones. The Committee for 300 book, whatever. And that was from Mel Scott. So thanks, Mel Scott. But remember, you can't help somebody else, really. They're going to have to help themselves. Okay, so how to not to be a useless eater? Win the biochemical battle. Deal with your predispositions. Figure out how to solve those anomalies that are in your genetic line that have been passed down to you for centuries. Learn how to be just thankful that you have life. Not take it for granted. Okay? It's pretty different out there. I mean, I feel different. Okay? And yes, I do snark in the morning because I just wake up and then I'm like letting everything go from the night before. But yeah, I'm getting through writing this book, and it's just, I had to add in that part about the religion part of it, because what I wrote yesterday around the Ottoman Empire and the Akkadians and the Sumerians and the Israelites. Okay, so yes, I was raised Jewish. A lot of people have an issue with the Jewish religion because they think they run the world. And I would say this. I would say there are cultures that are more advanced than other cultures, and they can kind of see a bird's eye view. They've had the pleasure of history. They had the wisdom of history, and some of them have been, dealing with history through their genetic line from, in Russia and Germany and all the different areas of where they've been persecuted. And, I mean, hey, when you have someone that's innovative and yes, smarter, there's jealousy. And when you're smarter, more innovative, and you tend to make more money, someone's going to be jealous of that and then persecute you. Well, I've been there. I don't make a lot of money, but my ideas have definitely challenged people. So yeah, I can understand where they're coming from. So I don't know where I was going with this, but yeah, oh yeah, in my book. So I wrote about prehistory and the some cultures more advanced than others, and then I go down, the timeline of like the Sumerians were the first civilization, and they were polytheistical, and then the first Jewish monotheistical god. So Sumerians and the Jewish people have been talked to by the aliens. They were taught stuff, okay, because Sumer was a very advanced civilization. They invented the wheel, they invented cuneiform, the first writing, and then also in Mesopotamia was where also Abraham, the first monotheistic Jew, started out from. And then his descendants, which is Moses, was the one that led the Jews out of Egypt that were enslaved. Now, some people have issues with history. They don't like that history. They think that's a very one-sided history. Well, every single culture comes from a single point of origin. Okay, you have the cradle of humanity, which is Africa. Okay, and then you have the cradle of civilization, which is like, the Indus Valley, Hindu or India, and Pakistan, and you have Mesopotamia, you have China, you have all the, there's 6 cradles. Okay, I forget, I don't have them all off the top of my head. Okay, and so you have the cradle of humanity and the 6 cradles of civilization. Well, that civilization has been manipulated and given the information from higher powers. And so they've all then been given information to then pass down to their predecessors. And sometimes that information gets skewed, or the people that weren't dubbed with that innovation or rejected it, where then this is where you have the factions. Okay, and so that's what's going on right now, is that those that are taking on the innovation through vaccinations, or taking on the virus in its fullest viral load raw in the environment, they're going to be innovated. And the ones that are trying to shy away, wearing a mask 24/7, have very weak biochemistry, will not do the vaccine, will not go out there in public, they're not going to be innovated. They're not going to be evolved. And so when finally society opens up, because the system thinks that the percentage of population has been exposed and everything is great, then when you go out there and try to adapt to now a very new environment, a new people, you'll be just like those that are in the middle of the Atlantic, never been exposed to Western society. Will you have what it takes to be able to handle the action potential of the massive amount of people with viral loads and data that you're not used to? And so that's the same thing that happened in antiquity. Some people were able to take to the evolution and the innovation that was foisted and was given to them by the aliens. And yes, aliens were using them as slaves. And then there was probably the Pleiadians that helped free them. Who knows? And, so I'm kind of filling in where I don't really see a connection in certain things, but I can kind of see a connection today. And so, yeah, I mean, that's really essentially what we're dealing with, is some people cannot deal with evolution, period, or innovation. And so you have to be able to handle evolution, innovation. So right now, today, probably is the same scenario that happened back in the flood days, back in the days of antiquity, when people were faced with 2 choices: evolve or perish. Many people perished. Many people did. And maybe they were given the choice and they chose not to evolve. They chose not to adapt. And so, yeah, again, we have this virus. And either you get a vaccine, or you go out there and be strong enough for the environment and not be, and not pass away. But since the government doesn't know how strong you are, the only way they can measure if you're able to handle the environment is if they know you had a vaccine. So at some point, that is going to be required in the future, because they can't figure out who's doing jelly juice, who's strong enough, and they have to keep their workforce. And so when someone or something releases a virus through whatever means, okay, we can debate on if it was intentional, if it was accidental. We probably have an idea. But no matter what, now the reactions have to be in such a way where they got to know, are you strong enough to handle the evolution and the changes in our society? And are you going to reject them in body, mind, and spirit? And so you see then the whole thing with the whole Trump and the left and the right, they're bringing up to surface all those that are having trouble adapting, who are easily manipulated, easily gaslighted, easily reactive. Oh, there's a lot of psychological operations. And yes, I was raised in a household of psychological operations, so I know them like I know the back of my hand. So I could tell reverse psychology. I could tell reverse psychology. Shit, I do it too. I do it out of just natural habit, because when I'm trying to get someone to do something, because I'm so tired of people fucking with me, that I'll just do reverse psychology, and either way, whatever, you get what I'm talking about. I'm trying to get you to do something, right? Even when I say, oh, I don't really care if you don't. I really want you to do it, but I can't force you. Well, yeah, that's a natural technique in any psychological operation. You take something away, it makes it more valuable. You try to say you force it on someone, they think it's really, really poisonous, and so they don't do it when they actually really need it. So there's a lot of psychological operations going on. And you have to be one step ahead of everyone in your community. You have to be. You got to know before it even happens, because you can understand everything is pretty much predictable if you understand chemistry, biochemistry, and human behavior. And then you have to be clear-headed. You can't be all distracted and allowing somebody else to just cloud your mind with all of their drama. Because if you can't produce on a clear head, then you'll be in constant reaction mode. Instead of sitting back and letting things happen, and you know that you'll be fine, that you don't have to react at such a level, you'll just do what you got to do to then upgrade yourself to the level of the environment. You'll do things at your speed. And you're not going to have this, well, what is it when someone says, your lack of preparation is not my emergency? That's what you're going to say to somebody else. Your lack of preparation is not my emergency. And I have people in my group on my Facebook. I want to tell them, your lack of preparation is not my emergency. But I understand people are not going to do things until they are freaking shoved in a corner, forced to deal with who they are. And it'll be too late for some people because they've been on this bandwagon, this kick, and their body has already been degrading. They should have done the JJs and stayed on it 2 or 3 years ago when they had the chance. Oh, but no, they had to reject JJs and whatever, and then reject me because I may have had my politics change and fluctuate over time. They couldn't evolve with me. No, because they're not evolving themselves. And so now at the 11th hour, when they're dealing with someone that wants to vaccinate them, or they're dealing with a virus in the environment, now they want to do JJs. And now they're asking questions. Of course you're asking questions now because your back's against the wall. And so part of me will say, your lack of preparation is not my emergency, but that's the human condition. That's the useless eater part of our world, is where when you're forced to deal with something, it'll be too late because you weren't prepared when someone gave you the information and spoon-fed it to you, and you still rejected them. Because it's all about, oh, well, it's all about the activism. It's all about being distracted. And so, yeah, and it's not everybody's fault. When so much information is thrown at you, how do you know who to believe? And this is where it takes then a very evolved person to do their own research. I've given you guys a jump on the research. With my book, you can go and you look at the bibliography and see where I got it from. It's all PubMed and academia. But I am steadily filling in the holes and breaking things down even more in my new book. And it's going to have my truth as I see it that is aligned with not only mainstream media, but with the biochemistry. But here's the thing. Remember, it's facts, truth, and outcome. You could have one fact, two truths, two different outcomes. And so, yes, mainstream media will have a fact of antibodies, a truth that they're great, yeah. And then the outcome is you die. Well, why is that? Why is it the outcome that you die eventually? Oh, because it's the medical practices. It's the imbalances you already sustained that has not been healed and sealed and patched up so where you can retain your energy. But the J juice, you have the fact of antibodies. The truth is, well, here's the truth. People should die. People do. But here's the thing. Yes, antibodies are good, but the outcome is you live. So you can have one fact, two different truths. Well, two different truths. Okay, here we go. Hold on a second. One fact. Antibodies, two different truths. People should die. People should live indefinitely. And then the outcome is people should die and people live indefinitely, or people live. Okay, so you can have one fact, two different truths, and then two different outcomes. So yeah, you can have even two different truths and two different outcomes. Or you can have the same truth with two different outcomes. Either way, the outcome is the intention. Okay, so that's why it's so hard to get people to understand a truth, because there's probably a 50 zillion truths they have to go through and plow through before they finally say, okay, I get your truth now. And you have the facts, and here's the outcome. You're still alive, Jillian, and wow, you speak very well, and you're not as reactive as you used to be, and you look great. Okay? And so that's the only way they're going to be able to say, okay, well, fine, maybe you actually have some credibility. But then it's too late. By that time they've realized really where I'm coming from, it's too late for some people. Do people actually have that much time to figure out where I came from and where I've been and where I am now? No. So those that know me, you better fucking take advantage. And those that don't know me, well, here, I could only say, hey, learn biochemistry, learn chemistry, read my book, listen to my videos, but you'll probably go through your journey, and I hope the action potential in the environment is not going to take you down before you finally realize it. But some of the people that know about me, that just learned about me, they're not going to do my juice until they exhausted all their resources. And then when they're in hospice, they're still going to probably go to cannabis. They're still probably going to go to detoxes. And then they'll be, see you later, bye. And they won't do J juice. Because they still have to plow through the 50 zillion truths that are out there. All the holistic world. And there's so many rabbit holes in the holistic world. And they go in the energy and healing world. And they go into the breatharian world. And then, oh my God. And by that time, their body is so malnourished, they won't be able to handle anything more. And then they're like, well, Jillian, what about your protocol 5 years later? And it's now the Ebola virus or something. It's too late, dude. You won't be able to handle it because you will not like having to deal with your healing symptoms. And you feel bad for them because if you don't know, if they actually were strong enough, they could do it, but they may not be. If you're not really physically strong enough to understand J juice, well, if you're not mentally strong enough to understand J juice, then you probably aren't physically strong enough to do J juice. There's got to be a certain amount of strength in both the body and the mind and the spirit to do J juice, to understand it, to release all that release all that programming that you were given a long time ago. All right. I'm going to go drink some coffee, but I appreciate you guys, I really do. I'm telling you, I grew up so much on this J juice. I swear I've grown and I've evolved and I've been innovated through leaps and bounds. Every single evolution, every single pain was an evolution. Every single pain that I went through was an evolution. Whether it was dealing with the trolls, whether it was Ohio Attorney General, whether it was Dr. Phil, whether it was all the articles and, the two different courts that I went to. You don't know about the second court, but I might go into that later on down the road. But I did go to court against someone the second time, and I won because they were too afraid to show up. So yeah, through all of that, through all of this stuff that I've been through, it's an evolution. It's an evolution. And if I can handle all of that shit and still do J juice, imagine with you, with whatever's going on, you could do J juice. And you won't have half as much shit that I had to deal with. And you can just focus on you. That's the beauty of it, is that if I can do J juice, then you can do it 10 times better. 10 times better. All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.